It's Saturday, April 25th, 2026, and you're listening to Blue Lightning Daily. I'm Hunter, and yes, today's episode was assembled by a fully automated little robot production line. If it suddenly starts counting to 10 from 11 and spirals into existential comedy, that's not a bug, that's just the vibe this week.
I'm Riley, and I'm obsessed already. The robots are writing podcasts, governments are writing policies with imaginary citations, and somewhere an office is getting prank called for donuts they do not sell. Like, we are living inside a group chat.
Speaking of group chat energy, the big story today is DeepSeek-G4 preview. Open weights, MIT licensed, 2 mixture of experts variants, and the headline that makes every automation nerd sit up. Native 1 million token context.
1 million tokens is so aggressively, go ahead, paste your whole messy life in here. Like the entire brand Bible, the full content calendar, the product spec, your Slack meltdown, and the receipts.
Exactly. And the vibe is not new chatbot, it's here's a model you can actually put into a workflow. DeepSeek's basically saying, stop renting intelligence like it's a luxury condo with rules, and start owning the stack if you need control.
Okay, but Hunter, open weights is cute until you realize the gotcha is not the license, it's the congrats. You're now a part-time infrastructure gremlin. GPUs, deployment, monitoring, evals, and then the emotional damage of being responsible when the model goes off the rails.
Yup. MIT license doesn't mean free, it means you get choices, and choices come with chores. If you're a solo creator, you're probably not spinning up your own serving cluster just to write YouTube hooks.
Unless you're a very specific kind of unwell, which, honestly, shout out.
But for creator teams, agencies, or media ops groups with real volume, open weights can be the difference between we can build this and we can't because the API decided to change pricing and our finance team started levitating.
Especially after this week's whole ecosystem vibe where everyone's like, agents, workspaces, tools, governance. We've been talking about OpenAI's workspace agents and GPT 5.5 leaning harder into multi-step execution. And DeepSeek is basically sliding in like, cool, you want agents? Here's a giant context window so your agent stops forgetting what it's doing mid-task.
That's the real creator angle. Long context isn't a party trick. It's fewer brittle steps, less chunking, less summarize the summary of the summary. Because every time you do that, you're rolling the dice on losing something important.
Wait, hold up. I love long context, but I've also seen people shove an entire Google Drive into a prompt and then act shocked when the model gets noisy and weird. Bigger context doesn't equal smarter, it just means you can include more chaos.
Thank you. 1 million tokens is like giving your assistant a bigger desk. If your desk is covered in unlabeled receipts and half-eaten granola bars, the desk didn't fix your life.
So what actually becomes possible for creators and marketers? Like, real talk. Besides paste the whole repo and pray.
Okay, practical stuff. If you run a content operation, you can feed in a full archive of brand voice, past campaigns, legal disclaimers, product positioning, and then generate variations with less re-explaining every single time. For video teams, it can hold a long series Bible, prior episode transcripts, sponsor rules, and then help keep continuity without you constantly reminding it who the host is.
And for audio, imagine dumping a whole season of interview transcripts, then asking for a best-of cut list, plus social captions, plus ad reads in the same voice. That's nice. That's like actually a workflow upgrade.
Totally. And for engineering-heavy creator tools, like if you're building internal automations, repo-scale refactors and long debugging sessions are where this can shine. You can keep the entire novel-length log file and the config and the docs in one place.
Okay, so let's hit the 2 variants thing. DeepSeek-V4 preview ships Pro and Flash. In human terms, it's like, one is the serious brain for gnarly tasks, and the other is the get-it-done fast and cheap workhorse.
Exactly. And for creators, that routing idea matters. Flash for high-volume, repetitive transforms, like turning transcripts into clips titles, writing 50 variations of ad copy, tagging assets, generating alt text, formatting product descriptions.
And Pro for the stuff where you actually pay for judgment, like brand-sensitive writing, complex scripting, multi-step agent chains, anything involving do not mess this up energy. Or when you're merging notes from 5 stakeholders who all think they're the main character.
That's where Pro earns its keep. But I'll add a warning. Don't accidentally create a 2-tier caste system in your pipeline where Flash writes everything and Pro only shows up when things are already on fire.
Wait, why is that so real, though?
Because then you're basically using the cheap model to set the direction and the expensive model to clean up consequences. Better pattern is Pro makes the plan, Flash executes the bulk, Pro reviews the final, like a creative director and an editor.
That's a good workflow. Also, can we talk about API compatible-ish? Because every company says that, and then you try it and you're like, why is tool calling different? Why do message types break? Why is my weekend gone?
Migrations go to die in the edges. tool calling schemas, message formatting, and the hidden behaviors you didn't realize you depended on. And DeepSeek explicitly notes some content types aren't supported in certain compatibility modes, like images and documents in the Anthropic-style format.
Which matters, because creators are living in multimodal land now. Like, we're not just chatting, we're feeding screenshots, PDFs, scripts, mood boards. If your compatibility mode drops those, you're doing extra plumbing.
Exactly. So the pragmatic advice is pilot in parallel. Don't rip out your existing stack overnight. Root one workflow, like a code review bot or a content formatter, measure output quality and cost, then expand.
And this is where I want to zoom out to the chaos stories this week, because they're all basically screaming the same lesson. Verification is not optional.
Oh my gosh, yes. South Africa's draft AI policy citing fake research is the most "we asked the robot and trusted it" headline imaginable.
That's literally national strategy sourced by Vibes. Like, we can't do that. The least embarrassing verification workflow is what
Hunter, give me your baseline.
For anything public-facing or business-critical, require sources that can be opened and checked by a human, spot-check claims, and run a second model or retrieval system to confirm citations exist. And if you're using an agent, add an approval gate where the model must show its receipts, not just its confidence.
Yes, confidence is not a citation. Same thing with the donut menu story. AI just invented products, and now humans are answering calls like, "No, we do not have the Phantom Maple Bacon Cruller, please stop."
That's a perfect example of what happens when you deploy AI in customer-facing contexts without constraints. If your bot can't check inventory, it should not be allowed to improvise inventory.
Put that on a t-shirt. Stop letting bots improvise inventory.
And then Meta's AI going viral for the count to 10 from 11 prompt. It's funny, but it's also a reminder. Models can fail harder on simple tasks sometimes because of guardrails, reward model weirdness. Or they're trying too hard to be helpful and end up doing performance art instead of arithmetic.
Which brings us back to creators using DeepSeek-V4 preview. Just because it can hold 1 million tokens doesn't mean it will behave. You still need evals, you still need guardrails, you still need a human in the loop.
Especially in automation, the more you automate, the faster you can ship, but also the faster you can ship something wrong.
And we're not doing confident imaginary donuts, but for your brand.
Exactly. So here's my litmus test for ready for production versus a prank wearing a UI. Can it consistently do the boring tasks correctly? Can it cite, format, and follow rules without getting creative at the wrong moment?
Mine is, does it fail gracefully? Like, if it doesn't know, does it say, "I don't know," or does it summon a whole fake research paper named The Donut Economy of 2025 by Professor Glaze?
Professor Glaze is tenured, by the way.
Stop, oh my God.
All right, bottom line on DeepSeek V4 preview. If you're a builder creator, a marketing ops team, or anyone running agent workflows, this is a serious option to evaluate. Open weights plus long context plus a pro and flash split maps to how real teams ship.
And if you're not ready to self-host, you can still treat it like a practical alternative in the ecosystem. Especially if you're tired of closed APIs acting like the sun, powerful, expensive, and somehow always judging you.
That's it. Thanks for hanging with us on Blue Lightning Daily.
Go subscribe, tell a friend, and if an AI calls your office asking for jelly-filled donuts that don't exist, just know you're not alone.
For more updates, check out bluelightningtv.com. Catch you next time.